Hey everybody, welcome to the Pixelblips Podcast. I'm Andy. Oh god, I'm already yawning again. I slept horribly last night.
Saturday morning yawn.
I'm Andy Ryan. Joining me as always my co-host Dave DeWert. Dave, what? Well, let's skip with the what have we been playing because we're going to talk about what have you been watching.
Well, as everybody knows, if you have any interest,
probably most of our viewing audience, I'm safe to say, have also watched this movie.
We've last weekend Guardians of the Galaxy came out. Yeah, definitely. And it was probably my favorite Marvel movie so far. Having gone from not knowing anything about Guardians of the Galaxy in January of this year to actively wanting to watch every trailer and everything I possibly could prior to last weekend. Have
you read any of the comics?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
I have. I've read a lot of comics.
Well,
I'm
not a comic person.
I'm your Marvel nerd.
Yeah. I just like
this
watching.
This might devolve into the Tolkien episode from last week.
No, don't do that. We're gonna have to find somebody else.
Star-Lord's dad. No.
Yes, it's Jason. J apostrophe S-O-N.
Yeah, Jason of Spartax.
Yeah. Which they might change that crap up. You never know. Anyway, so we saw that. I saw the movie on Saturday last week with my wife. And
so did I.
Yeah.
Not with his wife, with my wife.
Yeah, well.
Courtney liked it, which was.
Yeah, no.
She doesn't like any. She was like, it was really, really funny. The action was getting kind of boring. So
the funny bits made
Marvel hit the balance for her.
And it helps that Chris Pratt has he does a lot of funny crap outside of this, right? Because he's on Parks and Rec and stuff like that. So it had actors that she had seen in other forms and liked it, right? Because she likes Parks and Rec, right?
Courtney?
Yeah.
No, she's never watched Parks and
Rec. Oh, what the hell?
Never mind.
There goes my whole freaking point.
No.
In fact, I had never seen Parks and Rec until after I started watching Guardians of the Galaxy.
Her biggest belly laugh was when the Nova Corps show up in the movie, and he's like, "Oh, they got my dick message." She just started just spitting coke out of her nose.
Yeah, that's.
I was like, okay.
All right, whatever.
So as a newbie that didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy before.
What did I like about the movie?
Yeah, what did you like going in?
I like the idea. I just like the way
that.
Kicking
off my flip flops, making it comfortable.
Yeah. You can piss with your toes, son of a bitch.
It's the Die Hard.
Die Hard thing, man.
First Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Kick your shoes off, stand on the ground, make piss with your toes.
Relaxes you.
Yippee-ki-yay. Anyway.
Yeah. I like the fact that Star-Lord is super, super protective of all the stuff that he had in his backpack when he was taken.
Yeah.
Because I read up on a bunch of the origin stories, and this is completely different from most of the stuff that happens in some of the origin stories. There's one where he's an astronaut and he takes the place of one of the other guys who was supposed to be chosen by the aliens to be Star-Lord, right? That's the original origin story, correct?
Okay, so the problem with Marvel Comics, unlike DC, is that whereas DC goes for every 20 years and then hits the reset button so that they can keep the characters.
So they don't have to come up with new characters.
Yeah, so they can keep kind of the universe continuity intact.
Yeah.
Marvel doesn't do that. Marvel has what they call the sliding scale, which,
every so many.
Captain America was unfrozen 10 years before whenever the first comic was.
Yeah.
But the comic that you're reading now is.
Yeah.
So in our Marvel time, Captain America was unfrozen in the late 80s, early 90s. They just don't say that, but that's the assumed when you're writing the comic. That's the assumed.
Yeah.
Iron Man, all the 1960s heroes have had their powers for roughly 10 years.
Yeah.
At the current point. So the problem with that is that when you get out into the cosmic level of Marvel, you're dealing with things that are billions and billions of years old, and
the
multi-generational stories that just will never sync up correctly.
Yeah.
With them. So what they have to do with those characters is whenever they do, because cosmic Marvel isn't as popular as superhero Marvel.
Yeah.
They kind of every time there's a resurgence in cosmic Marvel, they kind of reintroduce the characters by bolting new aspects onto their current origin story.
And that's why I said the movie's origin for Star-Lord isn't the same as it is Like if you go to
the movie's origin for Star-Lord is totally different than the current comic book origin for Star-Lord.
Yeah, but even
similar.
Yeah, I mean, in that he was taken when he was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the comic book version, his mother was killed by some aliens.
The Badoon.
And in the movie, minor spoilers because it's like the first 5 minutes of the movie, his mom dies of cancer or something. And she gives him a package and he never opens it.
Yeah. But the original incarnation of Star-Lord, he didn't have an origin story for the first couple issues because he was part of this Marvel. They used to have a magazine format, which was always printed in black and white.
Yeah.
And they could get away with more shit than they could in their color comics.
Yeah.
So there could be, skimpier bikinis, more violence, blah, 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 blah. So he was introduced in those as kind of a side character in the beginning, and then eventually given his own origin story.
Yeah.
Where he was a hotshot fighter pilot that became an astronaut.
Yeah.
That at some point got hit by the Star-Lord power. And that the aliens then kidnapped him and took him into outer space to be the Star-Lord with a super intelligent living ship.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. And he just refers to it as ship, and the ship is in love with him, but he doesn't know that because whatever. Anyway, I like
the ship in the movie is called the Milano because he names it after Alyssa Milano.
Because when he was taken in 1989 or whatever it was,
who was the boss? Tony Danza.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good jokes in that movie that is like, we're like Kevin Bacon and stuff like that. Cause
my favorite is like when the moment it first happened and the first time my wife rolled her eyes at me was the Korath, the pursuer, shows up and the Skarians start poking Star-Lord to get him to move and he's like, come on, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And I snorted and it was like, this is going to be one of those movies. This is going to be an Andy movie to a T.
Yeah.
But just 80s references and comic books.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Ninja Turtles, I'm probably going to go see that movie today.
You want to go see that? I don't know how I'm going to go see that. It's gotten middling reviews. And to me,
my wife wants to go see it.
I'll see it. I'll see it eventually because I really liked the last. Side note, I really liked the last Turtles reboot movie. The CGI one. I really
TMNT or whatever.
Yeah. I really, really liked that movie, even though it's like a stupid kids movie.
Yeah.
This movie does not look like it's a kids movie. This movie looks like it's
a lot closer to the original comic material.
Well, and kind of the original movie material.
The first movie, yeah.
Yeah, of like darker, kind of Batman-esque stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like.
Which that's not what I go to the Turtles for.
I'll let you know in a couple of weeks how
I go to the Turtles for marshmallow and anchovy pizza jokes. I really want you. Have you seen that box set they have of all of the TV series discs? There's like 20 discs.
Yeah.
And it's in the turtle van, and you like pull the turtle van apart, and it opens it up like a xylophone disc.
Yeah, and you just get your CDs out.
And I was like, that's awesome. And then made another one like that for the Mystery Machine, the Scooby-Doo stuff. But they're both $200 a piece.
And no.
There's just no way I'm ever going to swing that.
No. But yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy was, it's I enjoyed it. I think I even enjoyed it more than Cap 2. It was a lot more silly, fun.
Okay, you go. We'll get to how I feel about it.
I did like a lot of the little in-jokes, even though I didn't know what they were when they happened. Like, when you go to the collector's thing, you look in the background, and there's like, oh, there's that guy that gets the power of Thor who's like not even close to human. And there's Cosmo the dog, and Rocket and Cosmo look back and forth at each other and glare. He's got a really goofy name. He's like a horse creature.
Oh, Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
He's in it?
Yeah.
I didn't see Beta Ray Bill.
He's like sitting with his back to the thing, but you see the cape and you see the helmet.
Oh, I gotta go. Okay, so I did see.
So you gotta look at some still frames, but then you also see like.
I saw the Shitare.
You see.
I saw the Dark Elf.
Yeah.
I saw Cosmo. I love Cosmo.
And of course he shows up later.
I really wish Cosmo would have spoken.
Cosmo doesn't speak. He's a psychic, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in his whenever
he
has his bubble,
can speak to you. Yeah.
It's always written with like a very thick Russian accent.
Because he's a freaking CCP dog.
CCP dog, and it's like so. I was like, come on, do the brain thing.
No, Cosmo's not gonna do it. But it was funny.
And then I saw Adam Warlock's Cocoon again, which I'm like.
God! It's coming. I mean,
come on!
They've already said there's gonna be Guardians 2, probably.
I know, but I kind of want Guardians 2 to be War of the Kings, but we'll talk about that. Because I'm in Guardians comic books. I love Guardians comic books. We can get into that.
But between all the little in-jokes that I didn't get in initially, and then I kind of looked them up, and I was like, oh my god, those are awesome. I wish I had noticed that. And
Howard the Duck.
God damn it, that's the after credits scene.
That's it. Everyone came up to me the next day on Monday.
Like, Howard the Duck! And it's like...
They were like, wait, Howard the Duck is in the Marvel Universe? Like, yes. Like, Howard the Duck from the 80s movies, yes. They're like, is he going to have his own movie? No.
He might show up randomly.
You will probably never see Howard the Duck again, and if you do, it's going to be the exact same way that you saw him this time.
He's just going to be, like, in a scene somewhere.
Super acerbic wit, like, spitting on things, like, pissed off. Like, that's Howard the Duck.
He's going to show up in some bar, and you're going to be like, he's going to have 3 lines.
Yeah.
And that's it. Maybe. He's going to be like an informant or something for Star-Lord into.
That's when everyone came up to me and they were like, Andy, Howard the Duck and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man could team up in Avengers. And I was like, if
Howard the Duck doesn't have superpowers.
I was like, if that's the thing that's blowing your mind about this movie, like, you're not a Marvel nerd.
But no, I mean, and overall it was just fun. Like the whole Drax's race doesn't get sarcasm at all.
Nothing would go over my head.
Yeah, none of that.
Fast reflexes. I would catch it.
And like the fact that, you know, because somehow Star-Lord, even though he was like 9 years old when he was taken, and then he is like the same guy, like if he had grown up on Earth and was just instantly taken when he was like almost 30, like, but he was a 30-year-old in the 80s, like. Like he makes references to stuff that he knew.
He knows about Earth because he watches TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They didn't ever explain that. They never explained that at all. In fact, I don't think they even said that he had any contact with Earth at all, other than the fact that everybody knew he was an Earthling. And that's
in the comic books, that's how they explain it.
Oh, they didn't explain that at all in the movie. I assumed.
And in the comics, he's been back to Earth a lot.
No, in the movie, he seems as though he has never been back.
It is looking like Avengers 3 will be Star-Lord's return to Earth.
Well, that'd be good. I mean, Avengers 2 is obviously Age of Ultron. We're gonna get Vision and, you know, fucking Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch
and this week they announced.
I have no idea. You go.
Captain Marvel.
Oh, he's gonna be. She's gonna be in that movie.
Yes.
She's gonna be in the
like,
new.
Like in Avengers 2, she's gonna have like cameos.
Isn't Spider-Man supposed to have a cameo in that movie, or is that 3?
One or the other, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
I know Sony and Disney are kind of getting pally.
And I think they're trying to get that as pally as possible while keeping it as under wraps as possible.
It's gonna happen. We know it's gonna happen. We need Fox to stop making bad X-Men movies so that we can get a good like big mega Marvel.
I don't know. A lot of people will be upset with me when I say this, but having watched all of the summer superhero movies, of course, Captain America and Guardians are number 1 and number 2.
And then have you seen X-Men? Future Past?
And Spider-Man 2 is number 3, and then X-Men Days of Future Past. Because to me, what Fox is doing with those X-Men characters, like,
they just rebooted the whole movie franchise.
I understand they needed to do the reboot button, and I liked how
they're doing that for Fantastic Four as well. Yeah. Like,
well, but for Fantastic Four, they're not doing it how they did it with Marvel, how they did it with Fox, where they're kind of like
like what they did with the X-Men, where they went back and changed time. Kind of like Star Trek,
where they were like, okay, we have to agree that this original universe still exists, and now we're going to do a parallel one.
Yeah,
that's what Fox is doing with X-Men.
Yeah,
Fantastic Four, they're just going new Fantastic Four.
Yeah, because I mean, none of the original are there. Like, and yeah. And I mean, obviously, you can't have Captain America play Johnny Storm now.
Yeah. But the other thing is, like, for me, the Fantastic Four, I actually liked the first 2 movies because they did a good job of hitting both on the family aspect of the Fantastic Four and the fantastic aspect of the Fantastic Four in the second movie. Yeah. Even though they made Galactus a giant space cloud.
You saw the helmet. You saw
saw flames that were molded to look like the helmet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Case in point, in Guardians of the Galaxy, they show you an effing Celestial. They show you Isan, the Seeker of the Celestials, which is like, it didn't dawn on me until Monday morning, 2 days after seeing the movie, that, wait, I was in a movie theater, and Isan, the Seeker of the Celestials, was a pivotal part of the plot of Guardians of the Galaxy. They showed him, they showed how the Celestials work.
Yep.
I mean, as a kid in the 90s, if you would ask me, like, what's going to become a movie, I would say, like, Spider-Man, X-Men. If you would ever been like, will there be
a Guardians movie? No.
Well, this Guardians wouldn't have been existed in the 90s.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a Silver Surfer movie? Yeah, probably not. Is there going to be a Galactus movie? Yeah, probably not. Do you ever think the Celestials or Thor or the Asgardians will ever show up in a movie? No.
Well, I mean,
that would have been a hard no.
It's good that they're expanding it and they're bringing. And honestly, I have no idea if this is actually what's happening, but I would like to say that there's probably been a lot more comic sales because of all these movies.
Definitely the digital comics.
Well, yeah.
You mean comics overall at publishing?
Yeah, like maybe pay or no. So digital, yes. Paper, not so much.
Mm-hmm. Paper, if you're talking about the trades,
the ones that you buy
that
every
are
week.
named after,
like the straight up Captain America, the Thor.
No, they haven't seen them. They haven't
seen a
really
significant bump.
The problem with it is like you're looking at.
And you're coming into like a story somewhere in the middle of what you're doing.
2 or 3 years ago, DC announced this thing where they were rebooting their whole
franchise,
everything, and having the new 52, where they would have 52 new comics, new number ones.
Yeah.
And they had a huge spike in sale. It has since tapered off.
Yeah.
So when they did their huge spike in sales for the first time in like 20 some odd years, like since the death of Superman, they overtook Marvel.
For like a year.
Not for a couple months.
Yeah.
So then Marvel, of course, the sales kind of righted themselves, but Marvel saw it, so Marvel then launched Marvel Now, which they started saying, okay, what we're going to do is, instead of having multiple story arcs told across multiple volumes, so basically, if you read Spider-Man in the 60s, he would, if you read Spider-Man 20 to 25, and then you could later pick up Spider-Man 120 to 125.
Yeah.
And it would be some continuation of that story, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've now said, okay, we're just going to start renumbering everything as the creative teams shift off and on and off of it. So, like, a good example is when they relaunched Avengers 1. They relaunched, Avengers. They relaunched Captain America at that time. They relaunched Buster, and they basically started all new story arcs. So that you could start at number 1 and read forward. The characters were still the same. They still had their continuity from the previous numbering. And it's going to make trade paperback sales and back issue sales really hard to figure out in the future.
Yeah, well.
But it's that.
Well, you'll have like number 1, 2008, and then you'll have number 1, 1950 something. So.
But the other part of that problem is that back issue sales are like tanking. Like that used to be where comic book shops made a lot of their money.
Yeah.
And people don't buy back issues.
Well, because now you can either get them digitally, or they're just redoing everybody's origin stories. So it's.
Well, Marvel doesn't do that often.
Well, but they have their digital stuff that you can look at on your Vita or your iPad or whatever, and I would imagine.
And they have their subscription services where you can go in, like I used to be subscribed to the Marvel Unlimited archive.
And you can just go through and read everything.
Stuff, which was really good until they made it $100 a year, and I was like, can't pay that and pay Amazon Prime, guys.
And Plus.
And whatever else comes down the pike in the next 365 days.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what they did find is that trade paperbacks that are named the same as the movie. So like the collection of Days of Future Past for X-Men. The collection of Ed Brubaker's Winter Soldier arc.
Basically, the winner.
Those
everything that is based around what the movies are being based on.
Yes, like those see spiked. Even if, in the case of like X-Men Days of Future Past, it's not actually based off that.
Yeah. It just uses the same name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've seen spikes in that, but that's pretty much it. Your classic brick and mortar comic book shops were really huge in the 90s, have since tapered all the way down. We'll get to the point, I think, in the next 10 to 15 years that you'll probably only see in a city the size of ours in Kansas City. Right now we have, I think, 5-ish.
I mean, there's a couple of comic book shops. The further north you get, there's like 1 or 2. Like there's one on Berry Road, but it's one of those.
Counting that one.
It's like one of those Bebop or whatever.
Yeah, Bebop.
Yeah.
So like in 15 years, you'll probably only see the Bebops.
The bigger, like the actual chains.
Yeah, the 2 Bebops. Well, I think they're a local franchise, but the 2 Bebops and probably Elite. Elite does a really good job because they're right by Johnson County Community College.
Yeah. Well,
and they're in the heart of Johnson County, so there's a lot of money to soak up there.
Yeah.
But like the Clints, which is a Kansas City staple that I used to buy my comics at when I lived downtown, they're probably not going to last after he dies. Just sad. But I now go to Bebop because it's closer to my house.
Yeah, so.
Anyway, so Guardians of the Galaxy. So, questions from a non-Marvelite to a Marvelite.
To a movie-only Marvelite, rather.
Yeah.
I figured out a lot of it. I mean, the
Merry Marvel Marching Band. And actually, I do have a Merry Marvel Marching What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I do actually have the patch for the Mary Marvel Marching.
I don't know. They explained a lot of the stuff in the movie fairly well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they gave everybody, even though they had to give like the quick versions of everybody's,
which I think
most of the people's stuff. The
lineup did an excellent job of doing that.
Yeah, it's like, daughter of the insane Titan Thanos.
Here's
family was murdered by Ronin.
Here's what Rocket is.
Rocket is an experiment, an illegal experiment. Rocket was really
Every
good.
time Rocket opened his mouth, I was like, yes!
I need that guy's leg.
I can't believe we have a movie with Rocket as a main character. Like, when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy,
you thought maybe Rocket was a tertiary.
I immediately went, oh, they're not going to go with the Rocket version of it. No, and then they put out that first concept art, and Rocket was right in the front, and I was like,
no. Rocket and Groot, that was good. Like that was. I mean, I liked pretty much everything about that movie. The only thing I didn't like about the movie wasn't the movie itself. I saw it in the theater downtown that we have, and the seats are like this. So
were you in the Rumble seat?
No, I wasn't in the.
Because that's what did I tell you?
D-box or whatever.
The D-box.
No, I wasn't in those.
The last time I paid for the Rumble seat was Thor, the first Thor movie, and we did the Rumble seat, we did the glasses, we did everything.
Yeah.
Like, right before the movie, like, one of the trailers had that really loud, like, Inception sound, and it broke the chair.
Oh.
So I spent the entirety of, like, the chair, like, whatever restrictor bolts were in the chair that shook out, like, every time Thor hit anything with his hammer, like, I was being, like, violently shook in my chair.
Well, that's okay.
And I was like, ah!
D-box is not supposed to be like this.
Which, that coupled with the 3D and all the Dutch angles in that movie, it was just, like, nauseating. I was like, oh!
No, we sat in the regular seats. It's just, they have, like, assigned seating. Even though the theater was, like, half empty, we could have sat wherever the hell
no one goes to that one anymore. Is that Alamo now?
Yeah, the Alamo Draft House.
Everyone that goes to the Alamo goes to see, like, the classic movies.
Oh, I don't know. We went down there because it was...
I want to see... Every year they do that Lord of the Rings daily banquet.
Where
you watch all the movies and they bring out, like...
Eats.
I've always wanted to do that. It's
it would be fun. Yeah, that would definitely be fun. And I can totally see them doing it in, like, December of this year.
Yep.
But so we saw that, and the seats were like this. So, because I was sitting here, my wife was sitting, like, right here, so... And they had, like, the shitty little bitty armrests, and the lady next to me was just like...
See, we went to the Cinemark that everyone doesn't go to down on the plaza. That has, like, the giant chairs with the big roll-up armrests.
No. If we had sat anywhere else in that theater other than where we sat, we would have been fine.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I was kind of pushing for her to want to go see Guardians again this weekend, because we could sit on the couch at the Screenland, but next to our house.
That's where a couple of my coworkers went to see it. That was awesome.
The one...
The armor one?
Oh, yeah, because I love the armor one. It's the right size.
But it doesn't have the arcade.
Actually... They have a lot of arcade games in that.
They do now.
They didn't before, but no, they don't have the full arcade.
They don't have the full arcade.
Crossroads isn't open yet. I would love for Crossroads.
They haven't announced where that's going to be yet.
No, it's.
They said down there next to the brick.
17th and McGee.
Yeah, down there next to the brick.
It's down there somewhere. Like, it's not too far from where it was before, but now it's going to be there.
It's the other side of the Crossroads, if you know Kansas City.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for that to open because they're going to have a bigger area for the arcade, and they're still only going to have the 2 theaters, which. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, it's a small theater. And really, like, we wanted to go to that. There's, like, that new Cinetopia place out in Overland Park to go see it.
It's too far out there.
One, it's really far out there. And two,
like
you know what movie they weren't showing?
What?
They were not showing Guardians of the Galaxy last week.
Weird.
They were showing that James Brown movie instead. That was the newest movie they were showing. And then it was, like, Maleficent and X-Men Days of Futures Past and stuff like that.
That isn't owned by a movie company.
Well, I'm not.
So that might be.
I don't care why they weren't showing it. That's why they didn't get my business, because she wanted to go out there to it, and they weren't showing the movie.
They'll be showing Turtles this weekend.
Are they? I mean, I don't know. There was a theater in Zona Rosa that did this, and they showed Avatar for almost a year.
Ooh.
And then they went out of business because they weren't showing any movies that anybody wanted to see.
That's where I saw that Prince of Persia movie.
The one
that had the weird chairs that are like office chairs you could roll around and everything.
A little bit, yeah.
I hated that place.
We went there once and it was decent, right? Like we ate dinner there.
Yeah, Courtney did the movie and food and
Yeah, it's one of those. It was one of those places, and that's how I own with Draft Houses too. You can get whatever. And here we are talking about Kansas City movie theaters. Awesome.
Anyway, so Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
So,
I enjoyed that movie. You know, and now I know that now that Cosmo is no longer in the collector's collection, he's gonna take over and be like head of security of. It's called Nowhere, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. He's gonna take over the giant freaking head.
The Celestial brain.
The Celestial's head.
Yes.
I really didn't have any questions about that movie. I mean, I liked it. You know, is Nova ever going to show up? And does he have any relation to the Nova Corps?
Yes.
Okay, so...
I don't know that he's ever going to show up.
Well, but he does have a relation to the Nova
All the
Corps.
Novas that have ever been Novas, that you...
Have been, like...
Earth Novas.
Yeah.
Are part of the Nova Corps.
Okay.
So the comic book story of that is, you guys know Green Lantern, really bad movie with Ryan Reynolds. Green Lantern was made in the Golden Age of comics, and then in the Silver Age, he became a guy, Hal Jordan with the ring. And eventually, they were like, hey, this is kind of stupid. Let's take it into space and make him a space cop.
Space cop.
That really took off. That did really well for them. So then Marvel did what they do, and they kind of copied it. Same thing, DC copied stuff from Marvel. Marvel copied stuff from DC.
Yeah.
This was during the time that DC actually published Marvel comics. Yeah, DC published Marvel comics in the beginning. Yeah, I always say that. People are like, whoa. I was like, yeah, it's because Marvel didn't have the money to publish it.
They weren't big enough to be their own publisher yet.
Yeah, they couldn't get the money together to get the magazines out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then Marvel made the Nova Corps, and the Nova Corps are a better version of the Green Lantern Corps. Because they're not built around like we always have to have courage and hope and we must fight the fear and the yellow bubble.
Yeah.
It's not that metaphysical with the Nova Corps. It's hey, we're space cops.
Space cop.
And there's two types of Novas. There's
well, I mean, I'd seen the progression. Like there was a whole this is like your private Nova, and then you work your way up all the way to like the general kind. And that's not what it is. Like it's probably like sergeant detective.
Those are the ones on Xandar.
Yeah.
Okay, so since
there's like a bazillion of them.
Yeah. So the Guardians of the Galaxy isn't our galaxy.
No.
It is the galaxy next to our galaxy in the universe. So the Nova. Yeah. The Nova for. I mean, when you say next to, it's three-dimensional space.
Well, yeah.
The next closest one is Andromeda, but I don't know for a fact that is. Anyway, so Nova on Earth, this kid finds the Nova bands and becomes Rick Ryder, the Nova of Earth, and then eventually gets taken into space, turned into Space Cop, brought back to Earth, and said, okay, you look over this solar system. This is your area. This is your precinct. You're the beat cop. Yeah. So there's those Novas. They have the yellow helmets that you saw. And then there's the Black Novas. And the Black Novas are kind of they work in teams, and they're kind of the problem solvers. They're not quite Black Ops. They're not that evil. But they're the problem solvers. So the Black Nova Corps.
I wouldn't say Black Ops is evil. I would say they're just...
Sneaky.
Yeah, there you go. Discreet.
Anyway, so the Black Nova Corps, and the current Nova of Earth is the son of a Black Nova Corps officer, and is also a Black Nova.
That's cool. I mean, I just didn't know. Like, I was seeing that, and I was like, because I'm thinking of all the like Marvel characters I know, mostly from like Marvel versus Capcom and Street Fighter and things like that. And yeah, I mean, some of those characters you're never going to see in the Marvel.
That Nova that you know is Rick Ryder. He's dead.
Well, gee, thanks. But maybe
Thanos killed him.
Maybe he's not dead in the cinematic universe.
I really hope he is, because I really want them to do the Nova kid story. Because this kid's like a teenage. His dad leaves. His dad's like a total drunk mess up because he lives on Earth with him. The dad's trying to make the world work, and eventually aliens come and kill the dad, and the kid finds out that all these crazy stories his dad ever told him about being a space cop were actually true. Yeah. So he has the Black Nova helmet, since he's the only person
of lineage.
Yeah, besides his little sister of lineage that can access the Black Nova helmet, he becomes the Black Nova for Earth. And it gets like rocketed into cosmic, super battles. Which is okay. So Andy, I really liked Guardians of the Galaxy. I did not like it as much as Captain America: The Winter Soldier because it wasn't about anything.
No, I liked it, and it also has like
it was like a heist movie. It was.
It kind of was. It was Marvel's version of a heist movie.
Yeah, the characters took you on it. It's gonna be like Ant-Man. The characters are really interesting. The characters take you on the journey.
And it's a good introduction. It's a good introduction to all of these characters.
Yeah, it's a good introduction to all these characters into this giant galactic canvas that they now have.
And we finally get to see what Marvel's version of Thanos, like the Marvel Cinematic Thanos, is going to look like.
Like
with Josh Brolin, even though like the only thing that was actually him was like from here down, and then everything else was either prosthetic or CG.
And him cracking the smile, I was like, yep,
that's Thanos.
And you're all doomed.
Yeah, and we now know 4 of the 6. Are they calling them gems or are they calling them stones? Okay, so we know 4 of the 6. And we know 4. You have the Aether, you have the Tesseract, you have Loki's staff. The gem in Loki's staff is probably one of the gems.
But they haven't said it yet.
They haven't said it, but...
They haven't said it.
They haven't specifically said it, but everybody is rumoring it to be one. And then we have...
This is my point of contention, because in Avengers, the physicist says you can't protect against your own energy. Also, it wouldn't make sense, and so they use the staff to destroy the Tesseract.
Nobody actually touches the stone, though. Everybody only touches the staff.
Okay.
If you touch the stone, that's when you lose your shit. And every time the Tesseract has ever really been touched is either with gloves, which I guess that makes a difference. And you can't, like, the Aether was inside of Jane Austen for Thor 2. Or whatever her name was. I don't remember.
Jane Austen is the one that wrote all the books.
Anyway, whatever her name is, I don't care. I don't care what her real name is. She was inside of Natalie.
Yes, so all these things, here's the point. Thanos would not give away an Infinity Stone to gain another Infinity Stone. He would hold on to all of them because that is his goal. That would be like you going, hey, Andy, here, borrow my car. I need you to go buy me another car.
Okay, well, he's fucking crazy. He's Thanos. Who knows?
No, Thanos is not crazy. We can talk about Thanos in a bit. Anyway, so...
We don't have that much time.
So anyway, the thing... We're going to take that much time. Anyway, so so I liked what they did. I liked how they set up. I felt the same way as I did about the original Thor, the original Captain America. They weren't really about anything. I mean, the original Captain America is about patriotism and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, the original Thor. Not really about anything like kind of space MacGuffin-y stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in light of like the fact that Captain America: Winter Soldier was the first Marvel movie to have like a timely message.
Yeah.
I was just kind of
yeah.
That, and the cool thing about the Guardians of the Galaxy is that this 2006, 2008 team, they were written to be kind of the Greek chorus to the things that happen in cosmic Marvel, which is giant galactic civilizations doing battle, or like universe-ending things. And the Guardians of the Galaxy are kind of the wisecracking guys. They get drawn into the middle of every conflict.
Yeah.
They kind of had a little bit of that. They did it like a baby step with Ronan the Accuser and him being a Kree fanatic. But they didn't really have like a giant galactic problem.
Well, Thanos.
Yes.
Thanos is a giant galactic problem.
Thanos is a giant galactic problem. He's not going to become a giant galactic. Like right now, Thanos is sitting on his rocket throne.
There's at least one more movie for him to get.
Right now, Thanos is sitting on his rocket throne, getting the gems. Once he has the gems,
I mean, we know
shit's going to go down.
We assume that the Aether's already been given to him by the Collector.
I don't assume that.
I assume that he's already been given the Aether by the Collector. Because why would the Collector hold on to it for so long unless...
Because that's what
the Collector was trying to collect all 6 of them as well.
Yes, that's what the Collector does.
Well, then there's going to be one giant Thanos goes on a big heist movie where
the Collector is kind
he
of
steals
like
them
me.
all.
The Collector's kind of like me.
He wants all the shit.
I buy video games. I will play them eventually, but more because they have significance and need to be taken care of. The Collector collects things because they're cool, yes.
But so you're running under the assumption that the Collector is not working for Thanos.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Okay.
If anything, he's trying to get a full set. But if he was working for Thanos, Thanos wouldn't need Ronin. And if he was working for Thanos, Gamora wouldn't try to sell him the Power Stone.
Yeah, but
that's
if she didn't,
the purple one's power.
If she didn't know that she was working with Thanos, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah, so
it's just like
these are the deductions that Marvelites make that lead to us going, no, that's probably not the Mind Stone in Loki's staff, because it wouldn't make sense. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this would be super nerdy conjecture. But now that the super nerdy conjecture people are running the Marvel Universe cinematically,
if you're wrong in a couple of years,
if I'm wrong
in Avengers 3 or 4, whenever Thanos gets them all, if you're wrong, you owe me $1.
I'll owe you $1.
You'll owe me $1.
I'll owe you $1. The point is that also, like, let's not forget, there's 6 Infinity Stones.
Yes, there are 6.
We've already found 3 of those stones.
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4. We've only found 3 of those stones. Marvel has something like 7 more movies before they get to Avengers 3.
Yeah, I know.
And all of these space MacGuffins have been like simple plot devices to propel the movie forward.
And that big Thanos.
Yeah, so like, case in point, the Avengers is just the Tesseract is a space MacGuffin and we need to get rid of it.
Yes.
And Aether, the same way. Space MacGuffin, we need to get rid of it.
This purple gem thing,
we need to
stash it in and get rid of it and put it somewhere.
Yes.
But see, now it's like, okay, we've explained what this thing is and now we know where it is. So we know we're going, somebody's going to do a raid on Odin's treasure vault to get not only the stone but the glove.
I don't know that Marvel's going to have the glove be kept in Odin's treasure vault, but if we were anywhere in the known universe to keep the glove, even though the glove...
It's there! But we already know it's there. We've seen it.
You saw it for like 5 frames
of
film.
It's there. Yeah, well, you know what? They wouldn't have put it there if they didn't want us to know it was there.
Anyway.
Because Marvel knows their nerds.
In the comics, when the 6 Infinity Gems come together,
they
create the gauntlet.
Yes.
So it wouldn't make sense to have a gauntlet already exist, but whatever.
You know what? The movie lore is different.
Yes.
And, we could argue, I'm still stuck on the Loki's staff gem is one of them, because they're using it to unlock the latent energies inside of people, and the only 2 that survived were Quicksilver and...
But they've already done that with the Tesseract's power.
Well, no.
With the Nazi weapons.
Yeah, no, they're talking about the people, the stuff in people, like the latent, like the powers in people.
Yes. Okay. Just so we're clear, Hydra is using
the staff, the staff as
to unlock the power inside people by testing it on people.
Yes. Whereas when they were using the Tesseract, they were just making weapons with it.
They were just charging batteries, right?
Yes, because it is a power source.
So is it possible that they, in the interim 70, 80 years, said, hey, what if we use this power on humans and see what happens?
I mean, obviously the Tesseract gives you knowledge as well, because it worked with What's-His-Face. Although, actually it didn't work with What's-His-Face because Loki gave him all the knowledge.
Well, he says the stone...
It shows in the stuff, but...
Keep in mind, these are singularities that were born as the universe was being born,
yes,
so the rules probably don't apply.
Anyway! Oh my god, we could argue this crap all day.
I'm Marvelite.
This could be like
You're not arguing with me.
Anyway.
I know how these things work already. The Infinity Gauntlet has...
But they can always change it.
They can always change
it.
But Marvel has a good track record.
And they're not going to change it drastically.
Not changing it just willy-nilly, of having an internal logic with how the Tesseract works.
Okay,
why people want these things.
What do you think the major plot point, other than the fact that Ultron and Vision and stuff, what do you think the major plot, like, do you think there's going to be any space MacGuffins in Avengers 2?
No, I do not think there will be any space MacGuffins in Avengers 2. Okay. I think, if anything, Loki's staff will show up.
Well, yeah, because it's already on Earth.
Yep. And they're going to be fighting Hydra in the movie.
Yeah.
But the crux of the plot will probably orbit around
Tony
making the Avengers Initiative, or Avengers Academy, whatever they're calling it, and building the Iron Legion, and then that's
destroying the Iron Legion. Yeah, that's why we see concept art of Hulk versus Hulkbuster.
Yeah, all of the Ultrons and stuff.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, which is a good example to show, like, because, the end of Captain America set this up with, yes, the world's a dangerous place, yes, we helped make it that way, but you need us because we're the only ones that can defend you. Avengers 2 will probably be that theme writ large across the entire world.
Yeah, because Tony is the one who made it that way.
Yeah. As if anything, at the end of Iron Man 3, it would be hard to do this, but somehow more arrogant than ever before.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I liked Guardians.
I didn't like Guardians just because there wasn't a giant space conflict where that's what the next Guardians I hope is going to be. The Guardians play. They're kind of your tour guides to these giant metaphysical things.
Well, and the one thing that really struck me about it, and maybe it's just me, and maybe it's because I watched Star Wars in the last couple of months. It just seemed like it was a lot of, okay, now we're here. And then there's like 10 minutes of stuff here, and it's like, oh, now we're here. Because the stuff in the between would really fucking suck. Because it's space flight. All right, where were we at? Somewhere between where we were and where we're going. Yes. But it was just like, here's a wipe.
Well,
or here's a transition, here's a transition, here's a transition.
Yes. In the cosmic comic books, most of the time when you're in the cosmic comic books, instead of it being like a Guardians of the Galaxy comic book, an Inhumans comic book,
whatever,
a Nova Corps comic book, a Silver Surfer comic book, they usually would have them built around a central event, so that you could jump between what are the Guardians doing now? Okay, what are they doing right now? What's Silver Surfer doing? Blah blah blah. They would just bounce so that it builds that kind of time into it. I mean, good point is Thanos. You know why Thanos is crazy, right? You know what his drive is?
To destroy the universe.
You don't know why?
Because he hates everybody.
No, because he's in love with death.
No.
Because in the Marvel Universe, when you get out of the cosmic part of the Marvel Universe, you're dealing with things that are so large that eventually, yes, things like eternity, death, right, wrong, become actually things, people. So death is a woman in a purple cloak. Sometimes she has a beautiful face. Sometimes she has a skull for a face. And yes, Thanos is in love with her. Because way back in the beginning of the Marvel Universe, go way back machine, the Celestials, after that singularity made the universe and the Infinity Stones, the Celestials show up, which are these giant space gods, which are like the size of a planet. A good thing for scale, the Golden Gate Bridge is as big as one of their heads.
Well, I mean, yeah, because obviously you can fit hundreds of thousands of people inside of one of their heads.
Yes.
And apparently, people don't freaking, they're the space thing really fucked with me, right?
What?
Like, well, because
vacuums.
Yeah, yes, you would be alive for like maybe a minute, but you
don't know what the atmosphere is like though.
In space?
They're not in deep space.
No, they are in deep space. That's the thing.
No. Like you're talking about like after they get out of the.
I'm talking about when
nowhere, and the thing blows up,
yes.
and Quill's holding her and freezing to death.
Yes.
Two things. One, in a vacuum, your skin does stay on you. You don't blow up.
No, I understand you don't explode, but because liquids boil at lower temperatures in a vacuum, your blood would start to boil.
But they're still in the atmosphere of nowhere. So they're not in a vacuum. Whether it's methane or whatever else is floating out there clouded around this thing because it has gravity.
It does have
gravity. Gravity attracts everything. And nowhere's big. There's still stuff out there.
Nowhere is probably about the size of, I don't know, maybe the size of one of Mars's moons?
I don't know. If you use the Dreaming Celestial from the Eternals comic book for a scale, it's a baby Celestial. So, and its head is the size of San Francisco Bay.
Okay, that's a baby Celestial.
Yeah, baby Celestial.
So we're saying a full-grown
Celestial would be much bigger.
Yes. But I'm saying if Nowhere's head, we're even if we're
a good example for scale is there's a shot in the comic books with the Celestial standing next to Asgard.
Yeah, well, Asgard's not spherical though.
No, but like because Asgard's a big nebula type thing.
Yeah.
Standing next to it.
Yes.
As in full, like it's the size of their belt.
Yes. Okay, I understand that.
So this thing has mass and size.
I mean, it's that suspension of disbelief, right? Like you have to. You're already watching a movie with a talking raccoon and a tree monster guy and freaking aliens and all this other crap.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like that. The space stuff in particular is the one thing that really kind of threw me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That was the one,
biggest
This is
something I go back to when people are like, I didn't like Captain America because it wasn't as realistic as Iron Man. Like, oh, Iron Man, you mean the one with the guy who builds a giant suit that lets him fly halfway around the world in under 8 hours?
Yeah.
Oh, that one, okay.
I mean, but Cap was, in theory, Cap was at least marginally more realistic if you take out the super soldier serum.
Or like Thor, this thing that, this narrative that orbits the concept of alien space gods coming to Earth.
Yeah. I understand that it's silly and it's just a real weird nitpicky thing.
Faster than light travel.
That's the one thing that really screwed with me, because even like the face mask alone would not be enough to keep somebody alive in space.
Yes, unless there was an atmosphere around.
But I mean, okay, so like when they got out of the kiln, right?
Yeah.
Quill went and got his stuff, and he was floating back.
Towards
yeah. He probably would have.
Okay, we're gonna roll
anyway,
something else.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So after the Big Bang, Infinity Stones are made, blah blah blah. Celestials show up, and Celestials start going from planet to planet, and seeding with life.
I understand that.
Galactus is made by the Celestials because he is from the previous universe brought forward, because the Celestials know this universe is going to keep expanding, and eventually it'll hit the borders of where it needs to be, at which point it'll become overripe and start dying. So Galactus needs to go around and eat planets to make room.
Yeah.
So that's how the Marvel Universe on a metaphysical quantum physics works. So the Celestials eventually show up on Earth, where they've seeded, and they find monkeys. And they're like, oh, we can do better than monkeys.
We can do this.
They take monkeys, and they take two strains, and they super evolve one, super evolve the other one. One of them becomes the Eternals, which are these human-like super beings. The other one becomes these things called the Deviants, which look like crazy tentacly monster-y things.
Cthulhu face.
Yes, so the Eternals live forever, and they're all Eternals in the Marvel Universe on Earth right now. The cool thing about the Eternals comic that Neil Gaiman wrote is they kind of all wake up and remember who they are. You know, these beings who have lived through prehistory, but still look like, 20 and 30-something-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the Eternals stayed on Earth. Some of them shot up to the stars. They make the Kree, which is the blue Ronin guy you saw. Kree makes the Inhumans. They also, the Deviants help make the Skrulls.
Mm-hmm.
The Chitauri are kind of an offshoot of the Skrulls in the narrative of the comic books. So I don't know about the real Marvel Universe because we haven't seen the Skrulls yet. Let's see.
I didn't think they could use the Skrull. Like, I didn't think they could talk about it. I thought that had something to do with, like...
I mean, they did show up in Fantastic Four first, but then again, so did the Kree, and Ronan the Accuser showed up in the Fantastic Four as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of all this jumbling around with the lawyer stuff, So the Eternals land on Titan, moon of Saturn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there they build a utopia, but they live for billions and billions of years, going through, forward. Eventually, one of the I guess president and first lady would be the easiest way to say it, have a couple kids. One of them comes out blue and all wrinkly mouth, has the deviant gene.
Mm-hmm.
The first Eternal born in forever with the deviant gene. And because he doesn't look like a beautiful superhuman, like everyone else does, people make fun of him. He gets pissed off, eventually launches every nuclear bomb on Titan at Titan, and is the only surviving person. Before he does that, he kills his mother. And because of that, they call Thanos the Mad Titan.
Gotcha. And
because he's so messed up in the head, he falls in love with death. So he continually tries to kill things and please death.
Yes.
So eventually he gets a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet and wishes half of the world out of existence, which causes Adam Warlock and the Silver Surfer to take notice, rocket to Earth, bring together the superhuman community to fight Thanos, because Thanos knows, for whatever reason, the universe orbits around Earth. That's where all the superhumans are. That's where everyone pays attention to Earth.
So the centristic view, our
heliocentric
view, never goes away. Just like, hey, look at this, the entire universe revolves around us.
Well, it doesn't really revolve around us. So
yeah.
There's a story called the Kree-Skrull War, where the Kree and the Skrull fight over the Sol system, our solar system, and specifically Earth, because it's the only habited planet in our solar system which lies in a disputed trade area between the two empires. Yeah. So, I can't believe how crazy we're getting into Marvel lore. So all this stuff, of course, spins out. Thanos wants to make Death fall in love with him, give her a gift of half of all humanity. Superheroes band together, fight the good fight, take off the gauntlet, and eventually win. Kind of through a bunch of betrayal stuff.
Yeah.
During all this, however, the Earth people, the Earth superheroes, are kind of met with beings like Eternity and Adam Warlock and Death and the In-Betweener and stuff like this. The Collector's another one.
Yeah.
Things they've never seen before that's like so far out there.
Mm-hmm.
Since that happened in the early 90s in the comic books, all of the cosmic continuities with the Shi'ar Empire and the X-Men, the Spartax Empire, who is why they call him Star-Lord. He's the heir to the Spartax Empire.
Yeah.
The Kree, the Skrull, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It all orbits around these giant metaphysical ideas.
Yeah.
So, like, eventually, like, Annihilus comes out in the negative zone with the annihilation wave at the edges of the universe because the universe keeps growing, and thanks to the Fantastic Four and Reed Richards, Galactus stops eating things.
But if Big Lebowski told me anything, nihilists don't believe in anything.
No, Annihilus.
Annihilus. Oh, okay.
So the universe keeps expanding. Eventually, there's this thing, there's an edge of the universe. Mm-hmm. Eventually, we hit that edge.
Yeah.
Annihilus, we start encroaching on the negative zone. Annihilus comes out of the negative zone with a giant bug army that is going to wipe out all life in the world. That's when the current group of Guardians of the Galaxy that you know them as, the Rocket, the Groot, Drax, come together with Thanos, power up to take on Annihilus. Eventually, Thanos goes crazy. Horrible things happen. The next story I hope they tell is War of Kings, and there's a way they could tell it that doesn't include the X-Men, and I hope they do. So I hope the next Guardians of the Galaxy
You hope Guardians 2 is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically the Inhumans, the Kree, after the Annihilation Wave, it's actually another thing, it's called After the Conquest, are kind of broken. Mm-hmm. So they kind of become like the shove-offs of the world, of the universe, where they used to be this great space empire. The Inhumans from Earth, which were eventually the Kree who can't evolve, come to Earth, mess around with humans like Celestials did, thinking that, this will be how we evolve, so we make everything better. It doesn't happen that way. They make the Inhumans, who were found by the Fantastic Four eventually, but Marvel owns the rights to them. The Inhumans take to space and show up at the Kree doorstep and say, hey, we're ruling you now, because we are your evolved forms.
Huh.
So they get big. The Shi'ar on the other side, which in this case, convenient thing, you can't use the Shi'ar because it's X-Men. Spartax Empire on the other side shows up. The two clash of these kings, Black Bolt, and which would be Jason of Spartax, fighting, rips a hole in the universe. It's really cool. It's really awesome metaphysical stuff. And then there's this thing called the Realm of Kings where there's the neighboring universe. There's this thing called the Cancerverse, which is a universe without death. So it's grown super huge. It needs to go somewhere. It bulges into our universe. Guardians of the Galaxy show up, fight alongside Thanos, because he's the avatar of death.
Yeah.
He loves death. So we're like, okay, we now have somewhere to dump this guy.
Here,
dump him in there.
Have fun.
And that's where Nova and Star-Lord, although Star-Lord comes back, they do a heroic sacrifice.
Yeah.
And then it's never talked about again for a while, and everyone keeps asking Star-Lord, like, hey, shouldn't you be dead? And he keeps saying,
Yeah, about that.
So Guardians is fun.
Guardians is a really great movie, and you should definitely go see it.
You've listened to us talk about it this long? So
like over an hour.
Okay.
So we'll see you guys next week.
That might go big, man.